Hi, welcome to the Red Carp Plenary today. It's great to have all of you here. We got an amazing group of Hollywood experts. I'm Senta Scarborough. I'm a professor of journalism at East Tennessee State University, where I lead the journalism program. And I'm on this plenary because I used to work at Us Weekly and E! News for about half of my entertainment career. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and start the panel and everyone introduce themselves. So if you wouldn't mind starting at the end.
Oh. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Trayvell Anderson. I use they, them pronouns. I am what do I do? I'm a journalist, a podcaster, an authoress. I wrote 2 books, including We See Each Other, A Black Trans Journey Through TV and Film. And I guess I'm here because I got my start covering primarily red carpets. I don't do too much of that labor anymore. Praise the Lord for deliverance. But got plenty of thoughts about how to make it in whatever make it means for you in this work called Covering Hollywood.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Stephen Daw. I am the Pride editor at Billboard. I oversee all of our content having to do with our favorite LGBTQ artists. And yeah, very much like Trayvell, I used to do a lot of red carpet coverage. Praise the Lord, I don't do that as much anymore. But I'm very excited to talk about all of this with you guys today.
It's a continuing theme. I'm Stephanie Elam. I'm a correspondent in CNN, and I pretty much do everything. And for a while, that included covering Hollywood and red carpets for CNN. I still sometimes dabble, and it may end up on the legal side of entertainment, say Britney Spears' conservatorship, or Matthew Perry and the arrests that were just made in that case. So I end up still covering it, but often in different ways. And sometimes if I'm lucky, because I do a lot of climate change, I'll find a way to do those together like I did with my friend Dan here. And we wrote a piece on Chinatown, the movie turning 50 years old. So still in it, but not as much, but very happy to be here with you all.
Hello. Hi, I'm Charlie Carballo. I am a writer and editor with Fairchild Fashion Media, and that includes Footwear News and WWD. So I cover dresses and shoes and a lot of other different categories. But with fashion, there is that intersection of the red carpet. So I've had plenty of experience there. And one of my first jobs was at the New York Post. And from that journey, I started as a designer and became a writer and editor. And that's where I met Eric here. So I'll let him take it away from here.
Hi, I'm Eric Hagedis. I'm currently the deputy lifestyle editor at New York Post. Previously, I was an entertainment editor, and before that, when Charlie was there, I was also a designer. So we both actually had this really interesting. We didn't limit ourselves. I'll just put it that way. We decided to grow in what we're doing professionally, and the one message I can say is, trust in yourself. Don't hold yourself back, because I started there 19 years ago. I couldn't imagine I'd be where I am now, doing what I'm doing now, so many years ago. And I've been a long-time NLGJ member, past president, all this other stuff. So love this organization, appreciate the support.
Hi, I'm Mark Malkin, the senior editor of Culture and Events at Variety. And unlike all of you people who say, thank God you're not covering red carpets, that's what I love doing. I've been doing it for 25 years. And I'll just get this out of the way, because I always tell it at NLGJ conferences. I probably did one of the first stories on NLGJ when it first started about 30 years ago. I was with the Gay Press at the time, interviewed Leroy Aarons, who's the late founder of the group. And I went to the first conference, and then went to the second conference, which had its first job fair, and I believe I was the first member of NLGJ that was recruited out of their job fair. Ended up going to work for Gannett.
Thank you all. So right now we're at this world is sort of in a serious place, right? We have climate change, there's wars overseas, we have a very heated political presidential election coming up. So I wanted to ask the question, why does celebrity news and celebrity journalism matter? Like, where's our place in this world? And Travell, I was wondering if you might start us off. There's a trend here going on.
Repeat the question?
So why does celebrity journalism matter in today's world? Like, where's our place in it? Like, what does it do? What's the impact?
I think that for many of us, we grew up being told that like arts, entertainment, culture, celebrity was frivolous, that it was not serious, right? If you went to J school, okay, and even if you didn't go to J school, right, journalists devalue arts and entertainment and culture coverage. This industry devalues celebrity coverage, which is one of the reasons why working the red carpet is so hellish, and many of us are glad we don't do it anymore. Because the work of red carpet journalism, celebrity journalism, entertainment journalism is devalued. I think the impact of this work is that we end up being kind of, intercessory voices, right, to be able to show folks the possibilities that exist behind a celebrity facade. That's what I try to do with my work, at least. I think that celebrity journalism, entertainment journalism, culture journalism allows us, when done right, allows us to have an accurate reflection of where we are in a moment, in a society, in a culture. And if we're, lucky to be able to harness that, be able to pivot from that information that we learn, to be able to, craft that promised land we say we want to live in.
I mean, yeah, 100% could not agree more. Anyone who has hate-watched The Newsroom, as I have, knows all of the stuff that happens when they start talking about entertainment journalism. And I 100% agree that, yes, it is devalued work. And I think part of the important distinction to make there is pop culture and celebrity culture is a reflection of just actual culture. And giving people an outlet to actually be able to critically think about what's going on in pop culture and using pop culture as a medium to talk about other quote-unquote more important things that are happening in the world is a really useful thing for people who otherwise might not be that engaged in important news about political elections or about climate change. Having a television show episode dealing with climate change or political elections or things like that is a really important way to help people engage with these important topics.
It's also a business. It is a massive industry. How could you ignore an industry of the size of celebrity? Just look at endorsements. Look at isn't it Selena Gomez was just mentioned to be now a billionaire? If you look at it, there's just way too much money on the line. These deals are massive. How could you not cover it? So yeah, some of it is oh my gosh, look, that's glamorous, that's great, that's awesome. But also, there's just so much money on the line. And people who dismiss Hollywood are just trying to dismiss an entire machine that is based here, but it's moving all around the world.
And I agree with a lot of those points. It is a revenue model for a lot of publishers now. Think about wherever you started, and now you see more celebrity coverage everywhere. It's a huge traffic driver for a lot of media organizations, and yes, it represents commerce, through advertisers indirectly. And it's growing. It continues to grow. These people are impactful. They are the catalyst to change and to progress. So from a news perspective, it's important to have them included, their voices. They are the channels to a lot of people. Not everyone is watching or consuming hard news. So I see it continuing to grow, but I believe that as time continues, it will be validated.
And yeah, the business aspect is especially important because sports and entertainment, together or separately, are just massive money makers that everyone's paying into and everyone's getting money back, or at least if you're working in Hollywood or in sports. I think one of the things, though, that I do find distressing is that as it grows and grows and grows, yes, celebrity coverage and Hollywood coverage is kind of a distraction, potentially, from everyday issues that we all face, anything going on in the world, any disaster. But at the same time, and I think, unfortunately, social media also takes it in a different direction. There's so much hate that winds up getting thrown out in a lot of celebrity coverage. Any time that Britney Spears comes up with posts and something on Instagram, all of a sudden there's a headline, including in my publication, and it becomes this really disgusting echo chamber at points. I'm not saying because of my publication, but just in general, so many people are going to weigh in on it. And I think that's really a horrible thing. And I do worry that is also potentially driving the business in some sort of a really, really murky way. And I would like to hope that someday it won't get as gross as it does now, but I fear that it's all kind of here to stay.
I agree with everything. But I also, I think it's easy for people out there who are like, oh, it's just celebrity journalism, who cares, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll tell you, everyone fucking cares. Yeah. Be a red carpet reporter. Everyone wants to know about this person. Everyone wants, as soon as I tell people what I do, the person who's like, is so serious and they don't care about celebrity stuff, oh, why did J-Lo and Ben break up? Constantly. And also, celebrity journalism, entertainment journalism has been going on since the beginning of time. No, I'm not going to say that. But Hollywood, since the beginning of Hollywood, it's gone through different phases where the Hollywood machine has controlled it more, or gossip columns have controlled it more. But it's part of this machine. It's part of the news cycle. I'm going to repeat stuff that I said in a former panel, so whoever was at that panel, excuse me, but in terms of it mattering, mattering, is that a word? I'm a writer. Mattering. It's a word. These celebrities, producers, heads of studios have a lot of power. Whether you agree they should have power or not, it's really beside the point. They got power, and I said it during the last panel. Gwyneth Paltrow goes to Congress and says, I want a hearing on Capitol Hill about leukemia. Could you make it happen? Guess what? It's going to happen. And that's power. Every time a movie fan, the regular public, goes and buys a movie ticket, it's like a vote at the box office. These people could be dismissed as just, oh, it's all smoke and mirrors and glamour and glitz or whatever, but they're really powerful. And also it's a lot of fun. These people are fun. I have fun at what I do. Like, I'm silly, I get it. But I could be serious too. And I know my work does give people joy. And, to sound like Oprah Winfrey, it's like we all want joy. And a lot of times it's entertainment that's giving it to us. That's my speech.
But to your point though, George Clooney and the influence he had with Joe Biden, that is Hollywood. That is an immense amount of power.
Right, but at the same time, people say, I don't listen to George Clooney. He's not going to make me how I vote. But guess what? You're all talking about the New York Times opinion piece. Did Joe Biden wake up and look at Jill and be like, well, George said it, I got to get out? But it's part of the zeitgeist. It's part of the discussion. It's part of why I want to go cover election night at Kamala Harris's headquarters, because I know celebrities are going to be there.
You know it for a fact.
so.
Well, I don't know about anyone else, but like my phone keeps blowing up with like every celebrity I can ever imagine trying to get me to like donate or get out the vote or something like that. And I don't remember when I was doing entertainment reporting a couple of years ago that I got that much in the election cycles. It seems like it's actually increased more. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but it seems like more celebrities are getting involved using their platforms, even like lesser known stars. I don't know if anyone's seen anything like that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I also think that that's just part of like having celebrities so deeply available on social media is now fans are like holding them much more accountable and being like, hi, I need you to actually advocate for the things that we care about. And then it also kind of swings the other way, which is when celebrities do deeply reprehensible things, like people get mad at them. I'm not going to say that they get canceled because I don't think cancel culture is real. But like a story, listen, not to toot my own horn, but like a story that I was very proud of that I got to do one time was when Brittany Aldean, who is the wife of country singer Jason Aldean, went on her Instagram and said a bunch of like transphobic nonsense. We had a conversation at Billboard about like, okay, how do we cover this responsibly? And the answer was, cool, let's just do an entire story fact-checking everything that she said. Like, how true is any of this? And the answer was 0%. All of it was wrong. And we got to like talk to experts in the field. And so, like, yes, there are a lot more celebrities that are using their platforms to like advocate for causes that they care about. And there's also a lot of celebrities that are like getting called out for bad behavior on these platforms. And I think that it's part of why like this profession is so important, because then, you know, we get to actually have those conversations.
So at the intersection of sort of social media, red carpet, and the business, the red carpet has been one of the institutions of Hollywood since, the 20s, right? And it was a way that people could get a glimpse at the celebrities, right? Typically we didn't have any other way to do that. And so I'm just wondering, with all the different venues that we have to be able to see celebrities, have some kind of interaction even through social media, is the red carpet still relevant? And then also, like, what do you... I know, I'm asking a big question here. I'm asking a big question. Let me finish it.
Go ahead. I'm not saying
Good
nothing.
question, huh? Good question. But then I also wanted to know, like, the importance of the business of it behind it, So it's like stars, filmmakers, designers, is it more of a pay-to-play exercise where, they're able to, like, do the business of it? Or does it actually just promote, the industry? Or is it actually something that, like, is important to Hollywood and the film industry itself? Mark?
Yes, I still think it's relevant. Because we're having a plenary about it at NLTJA. But no, honestly, I'm just kidding with you. Everything you say is true. Yes, the red carpet is to promote a movie. The red carpet is to, I wore that Tiffany necklace because I got $2 million to wear the Tiffany necklace. The red carpet is for a celebrity to show, the public they're just like us, and so on and so forth. The red carpet is a business. When I started, not in the 1920s, but when I started on red carpets, they were much smaller. It was when I was in New York. It's, we're talking 1995. I think on the carpet was Entertainment Tonight. That was it for the entertainment shows. A few photographers, me, a couple of other, at that point I was working for Premiere Magazine and the New York Daily News, so I was print reporter, it wasn't video. And the access was much greater. I could go into a party and just talk to a celebrity. I didn't have to go through 5 people. And at this point, you can't even talk to them at a party. But the point I'm trying to say is that it's grown. I mean, it's gone from that to now, things changed a little bit after COVID. The carpets have definitely shrunk back a little bit. But I mean, they're big. And the stars, the studio system, they need to get their content and their projects to stand out because there are so many. So there's just literally, like I was looking on a calendar that I keep of red carpets that are coming up and what we have to cover and so on and so forth. And we can't. and I'm getting, tip sheets that are saying, would you like to cover the premiere of season 5 of blah, blah. I'm like, season 5? I've never heard of the show. And for me, if I've never heard of it, I just don't think most people, literally the other day, it was like season 5. I almost went back to the publicist, like, I've never heard of the show, but I didn't want to be mean. I'm not going to cover it, but
How many red carpets do you, like, on average, in a week? Not including, like, the big award season.
that I cover or just that happen?
That happen even, just to give people an idea.
I'm
fascinated.
I could open my spreadsheet here, and this week is actually kind of a nightmare because what happens is the Emmys are next Sunday. So the Emmys are next Sunday, that means everyone's in town. Right. So all these other projects, all these other studios, like, oh, while they're in town, let's have the red carpet. So, hold on, let me open my drive. Okay, let's do, starting from, I can't even believe I'm doing this. This is hilarious. Okay, we're gonna start from Tuesday, because apparently nothing's happening on Monday. Oh no, Monday there is, wait a minute. Oh, sorry, wrong day, wrong month. Sorry, okay, Monday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tuesday, only one, but it's the debate, so everyone knew not to do a red carpet on the debate that night. Wednesday, nothing, so I'll have that night off. Thursday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, Friday, there are God knows how many because it's Emmy weekend. Saturday, I'm hosting one thing, and then there's another thing and another thing. And then Sunday is the big thing, followed by more things. And then I'm pissed because Monday, after the Emmys, which that'll be really tired because I'm on deadline, they're having the premiere of Agatha, which I really want to do, which I'm going to do, but I'm going to be really tired. Anyway, that sounded really pretentious and gross, but you asked. But that, and this isn't just all of them. I get some that I don't even put on there because it's season 5 of a show I'd never heard of. Sorry.
I would just say to that too that people always think about the glamorous parts of covering Hollywood, but it is a beat. Just like any other beat, like people who cover politics, people who cover entertainment, it requires all of your time. And like when I was covering the Oscar red carpets, I would try to watch every single production that was nominated. That, along with my other job, by the way, because I still had to do my other breaking news stuff. It takes up so much time, and that's just me interloping into double dutch into award season and then get out. But I think that's what people don't understand. It's like the amount of knowledge you have to have over a very large swath of information is gargantuan. And so, while Mark is being kind of funny, that's a lot to have to juggle to know what's going on, to figure out what is the most important thing, what do people care about, and this is why this is important. It's a full-time, engaging beat.
And going back to part of what you mentioned about pay for play, I wouldn't consider it that way. It's a symbiotic relationship. You have designers, you have the star, the studio. They all relate. Someone on the red carpet, there are people who are fascinated by what they're wearing. Many people do have ambassadorships, and that's a job in the same way acting is their job. And in some instances, their ambassadorship might even pay them more than what they're earning on this film project or whatever it is. They're all on the same Venn diagram, but I wouldn't say it's that linear. But it's a business model for everyone, for a lot of different businesses.
So going back to the idea of it being a beat, what are some of the most important skills in case there are people out here who would like to get into entertainment reporting? What do people need to be able to do today?
They looking at me. I think it's the way that you sustain yourself as a journalist is the way you sustain yourself as a journalist, no matter what beat you are on, right? So, is the work good? Can you write? Can you, whatever your sector is, can you cut? Can you edit? Can you produce? Can you research? Whatever. I think there are slightly different skill sets that, depending on where you are in entertainment, come in handy, right? I was great on a red carpet back in the day because I have an effervescent personality. You know, the hair is always memorable. Beyond the fact that I was one of the only black people on the carpet. We'll get into that later, okay? But I think having a particular type of person, even you, Mark, like you have a particular type of effervescent personality, you be eating them interviews on the carpet, right? But if you are, you know, somebody who's into themselves, you gonna die on a carpet where you have to jump out to get people to come to you. And that's working at a variety. I was at the LA Times at the time. Not to mention if you happen to be working for a queer publication or a black publication, you know, or otherwise, right? And so that's what I say. Is your work good? Can you write? Can you interview? I'll also say for those of us who got a little bit extra melanin, you know, to your point, you know, yes, being an entertainment journalist, you got to know everything. But if you are black or brown or queer or trans, you got to know our stuff and their stuff, you know? And you got to make sure, to be quite honest with you, right, that your coverage of our stuff is just as well as your coverage of their stuff, right? So that we can get to a place now where everybody's talking about Tyler Perry. But a decade ago, they kept wondering why this black man's movies kept being #1 at the box office. You know what I mean? And so, I'm gonna shut up now.
I mean, yeah, Travell nailed it. I also think that it's important to, like, when I was in J school, the thing that everyone would never shut up about was versatility, be the jack of all trades, like learn how to do a little bit of everything. And while there is some truth to that, and you should like have fingers, oh God, this is a terrible analogy, but fingers in a bunch of different pies sound like my grandmother. I do think it's really important to carve out the thing that you are good at. Like, figure out your niche. Figure out, like, what in the entertainment coverage you are good at. Like Travell said, like, on a red carpet, I'm not great. Like, I'm not good at jumping out and getting people to do that interview with me. My personality does not pop out on that red carpet. But in, like, a one-on-one interview, like, over the phone or in person with a celebrity, much better. That's much more my speed, much more my lane. And so that was sort of the thing that I cultivated throughout my career of like, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm gonna stick with. And so with all of the talk about like be versatile, be able to do everything, there is really something to be said for like, there is a difference between adaptability and versatility. Like figure out what you're good at and then be able to like adapt to the circumstances around you, if that makes sense.
And I think on that point too, is don't make any plans. And you know, I say that jokingly, but I wasn't supposed to do this. This was not my plan. Everyone thinks this was my plan. Everyone thinks, Mark, this is what you want to do, because I am good at it. I know I am. But you know, when I graduated J school, and I tell most J school students don't do J school because that's not going to get you a job. Just enjoy liberal arts and do the journalism, the school newspaper, and everything, because you don't need a degree in it. But I did do J school. And, you know, I wanted to, you know, do Watergate. I wanted to show the corruption and all of that stuff. So this was never sort of part of my vision board and so on and so forth. And in therapy, I figured out why I've ended up the way I am, but whatever. Shadow artist. Anyway, inner child work. Nervous system, never mind. I've had too much coffee. But my point being is like the versatility. It's be willing to be like, okay, maybe that wasn't part of my plan, but just do it. You don't know. And especially now, things are moving so fast that, you know, ask me 25 years ago if someone came to me and said, you know, there's going to be a thing called TikTok. Like, I wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? Like, things are moving so fast. Then the next thing may be your thing. And by not doing the thing that they asked you to do may block you from that thing. I know that's really wee-wee, but you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah, just, you gotta be versatile. You've got to. Like when I hear a young person be like, well, I don't do that. I'm like, you what? You don't do that? I just asked you to do that. I'm not gonna get into the whole young people thing, no offense.
But it's also, as you as you evolve and you get older, things change. I mean, I started in financial news. My first job was at Dow Jones Newswires. How did I end up covering red carpets? If I had just been like, this is who I am, this is who I am, I never would have done it. My personality allows for me to do that. Why not explore it? It's also getting older and getting more confident in myself, which is part of it too. But it's also, again, back to the preparation. If I am there in a moment and I have seen Glenn Close's latest production, I'm prepared to have a conversation about, oh wait, so was it difficult?
Her nappy what?
You're prepared, you're ready to have that conversation if she wants to go someplace with it, right? So you do have to have a level of preparation, and I do think if you have like great interviews with celebrities at another time, even if their PR people are constantly, because they do this while you're interviewing, they're giving you light little, shut up, stop talking, shut up. And they will be doing that, but the celebrity may really enjoy talking to you. And you've interviewed them before. Like, I had it on one time at the Oscars where Viggo Mortensen and I had a lovely conversation at Sundance. That is my crazy sentence of the day. And he was like walking by because his PR person was pushing him down. This is for Captain, what was it? No, it was when he was the dad. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it. But he was like going by and I was like, Viggo, he turns out, I was like, oh, and he came back and gave me a hug, right? But it's because I was prepared in those moments for a conversation respecting their work. And so therefore, they are ready to have a conversation with you. And so sometimes it's more about that, where the PR people can be like psycho and are like on it. And then Glenn Close is pulling somebody else and you're doing a live interview with both of them, you know, on CNN. And it's because the celebrities have decided, but it's because of the integrity you have shown. And I've seen it with other people, but it's hard when they don't know you as well. They know Mark. They don't know me as well. So it's a lot harder to do, but it can be done.
That kind of is a perfect segue into, celebrities have to keep up their image, right? Protect it. So how do you get them to open up, especially like do a personal interview?
I start by just talking. Yeah. I'm myself. Have a conversation with them like they're humans, because they are. And so just start, but I know a lot more than I'm ever gonna tell them that I know. I usually know when their birthday is, where they grew up. Like, I have all this random information because, like, if something comes up, I can go and have that conversation. I over-prepare, but that makes me feel comfortable. That's how I roll. But I do think the more you just talk to them like they're humans, the better the conversations are.
Yeah, I think for me, in terms of, especially, I have my career in print and digital, the broadcast thing for me, on talking to people on camera, I didn't study broadcast journalism, I studied print journalism. Didn't really even think about being a correspondent, and it happened when I was at E! And what I think worked in my favor, and sometimes my producers would get pissed, is like, I didn't know what a clean shot was, or a clean bite. I would just talk, and I would end up interrupting or talking above a celebrity, and they wouldn't get that clean bite. But I couldn't do the bobblehead correspondence stuff. I couldn't do, like, ask the question and sit there like this, like a bobblehead, and have no interaction. And they're looking at you, and no one knows when to like. So it was just having a conversation, and that's what I think does open them up. I think when you are too concerned about getting the shot or what you look like in the footage, it just creates that wall. So it's really I just talk to them like they're just another person. I get it. They're the most, but I was joking about Glenn Close and the nappy thing from Deliverance. I was interviewing her at the Deliverance premiere, and I said, Glenn, I got to talk to you about that line. I said, I can smell your nappy. I said, I'm not saying it to you. You are Glenn Close. I will not say it to you. And she enjoyed it because I didn't do it as this serious, like, let's talk about delivering, whatever. Anyway.
I was just going to say that I think that, yes, I agree. Just having a conversation is like, you want to try to disarm these people, right? And get access to something, get them off their script. Because they got their script and they got their bullet points. I also think, though, if you don't have experience talking to people who are celebrities, people who have a script, people who are familiar, right, enough with their script to where you think that you are having a regular old conversation with them, and you realize that you got the same sound bite that 7 other people got, right? Because they're professionals, right? They, particularly as you start interviewing the more seasoned folks, right? And so I think it's important to note that, like, yes, you want to disarm them and just have a conversation, but you yourself have to be aware and tactical of how you have that conversation, how you move them and lean them into what you need. Because they there to promote their shit, okay? But you gotta get what you gotta get out this interview too, whether it's a hot sound bite, whether it is something interesting, whether it is some comment about, you know, this notable line in the movie. Like, you gotta get what you have to get. You shouldn't just be there, in my opinion, to help them amplify their points. You should also be bringing something into the interview that will push them beyond their points into something different, is how I feel. Because the reality is, right, they are doing, 10 interviews in the course of 20 minutes in a junket. They have their bullet points. They're going to say the exact same thing. The way you make yourself stand out, besides just being, that one black person that they spoke to on a carpet that one time, right, is by, asking different questions, right, pushing them. I love asking a tough question and seeing them squirm. Go on. Yeah, you ain't thought about that one because your PR people ain't really prep you. You need to find some new ones. Hire me, perhaps. But, and I think we have to realize that, like, in this work of entertainment journalism, I think one of the reasons why people do devalue it is because they think that we are just, another mouthpiece for Hollywood, right? And I think that's because many people aren't asking questions that push something forward. They do just want to know what's in your bag. And that's fine, because I do want to know what's in her bag too. No shade, you know what I mean? But I also want to, the line you keep mentioning, Mark, from The Deliverance is a wild line, right? And I look forward to somebody getting the opportunity to sit down and push both Glenn Close as an actress, as well as Lee Daniels as a creator, and those white writers who allowed that to come out of that white woman's mouth, right? Beyond just, oh my God, that's a line in a particular type of character that you say you've never felt before, you never played before, Glenn Close, but what are you perpetuating? Have you thought about what you are perpetuating by being a white woman in this black man's movie saying, I can smell your nappy pussy, and now we as a broader culture are just saying nappy this, nappy that, out of nowhere and laughing at it, but that's wild. Because the reality is, Glenn Close ain't got a nappy pussy. Lee Daniels ain't got a nappy pussy. So, just an example of ways that you can take these conversations and perhaps push them a little forward. And I know for me, in my career, because I haven't been interested in just being a mouthpiece for these studios, the PR representatives, the celebrities themselves respect me, so that now as a freelancer, right, somebody who doesn't have a brand behind me, when somebody wants me to write something, and they see that Tre'vell Anderson is the name on it, they know what they're gonna get. I don't care, Lori Harvey, that you want everybody to think that you're beautiful. Let's have a tough conversation. That was for Essence magazine. You can read it. But I just want to push us a little further than just, have a nice conversation with them, right? Yes, but also let's try to push the conversation a little forward.
So we've talked a little bit about publicists. There are gatekeepers, right, to the industry. Sometimes they're our best friends. Sometimes they're our worst enemies, it seems. So I wanted to ask, sometimes we have, there's a story that isn't going to be necessarily in the celebrity's best interest, yet we've got to pursue it and try to get to them. So I was wondering if you all could talk a little bit about maybe a difficult situation that you've had to navigate and maybe some of the lessons learned and successes you've had.
Okay. There's a few people in this room who know about this, but so I'm sorry if I'm going to try to keep the story short. May 31st, dates in my brain at this point, Kim Cattrall. It was revealed was going to be coming to And Just Like That. And rewind about 3 months to the end of March. That's when I learned she was coming back to And Just Like That. I was out to dinner and was talking with the source, and swear to God, the source was just getting ready to leave. He leaned in and just whispered to me, "I have a scoop for you. Kim Cattrall's doing a cameo." This was at the end of our conversation. As he was getting ready to leave, I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I wound up having to talk with him a little bit further, get some more information. I had solid information, fantastic quotes describing the whole cloak and dagger situation because they hustled her in a blacked out windows in an SUV to Silver Cup Studios in New York. And this was just days after it happened. The problem is I wrote up the story. The sad thing is I had to write it on Saturday, April 1st. We were worried that no one would believe it, first of all. However, I wrote up the story. I immediately reached out to the HBO Max publicists, to Sarah Jessica Parker's publicist, to Kim Cattrall's publicist, and Michael Patrick King's publicist. I don't think I've ever gotten a call back from a publicist as quickly as I did from the HBO Max publicist. Again, I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but what happened was that they pleaded with me to please not publish the story because they wanted it just to be a quick little surprise that would shock people when they saw the episode. This led to weeks of negotiations. It was tough. I didn't want to hold it, but there's conversations I had with the publicist, and it went way the hell up the chain, I have to tell you. The publicist said, "Sarah told me, please tell Eric not to publish the story." That's a lot of pressure on my part. I mean, this is a hell of a scoop, but it's also not like so-and-so is doing coke in the bathroom of a strip club or whatever. It's not like that. Fast forward, we have the scoop. We actually came up with a date. We talk about a symbiotic relationship. HBO and us, we agreed on a date that we would publish it. They would confirm it for us. They would not confirm it for anyone else, and they said if anyone else comes to them, and asks about it, they would give us a heads up so that we could get our story out. Turns out one other TMZ did know about it at the same time I did, but they just didn't have any information. They couldn't go with it. Fast forward to May 31st, and our friends over here at Variety, they had two writers, one of whom I know tangentially. They found out about it, and I was sitting at my desk, just like working, toiling away on whatever story. My phone blows up, and it's the publicist from HBO, and she said, "Eric, publish your story right now. Variety's got it. You need to get it out there. They are refusing to not publish it." And my immediate reaction was very loudly, "Shit!" Thank God I was home because it would have reverberated around the newsroom. I scared my cat, but what can you do? I immediately slacked my boss, told him I'm going to publish the story in a few minutes. I looked it over. I had to make a few tweaks because it had been 3 months. Published the story. We were the only ones who had the confirmation from HBO. But unfortunately, our friends at Variety published their story 2 minutes before I was able to publish mine. I was getting slacks from congratulating me at work. Everyone was so happy I had the scoop. People were shocked. I was shocked that I was able to line up. However, it still haunts me to this day. did we do the right thing holding it? They understood. HBO understood. It's like, we get it. It's a huge, huge story when you consider all the tensions that were alleged behind the scenes of the original show. But again, it's symbiotic. Sometimes you have to come up with an agreement, and it's just unfortunate that we got tons of clicks, we got tons of publicity. CNN, thank you very much. They actually quoted my story, said that we were the ones who got confirmation, so that felt good. But I still, to this day, I'm like, I wonder if we should have just published it. We would have burned so many bridges. So many bridges. It would have ruined so many things for us with HBO. Thankfully, we still have access. The publicist likes me. She invited me to premiere and all that crap. But I mean, it can be a very difficult dance working with publicists.
What did the publicist say to you after?
What's that?
What did the publicist say to you after you got beat by 2 minutes?
Oh, she felt so bad. She felt so bad. She was like, "I'm so sorry. I tried to give you the heads up because again, it's like they actually did watch our backs, and we watched theirs, because it's just, you got to do what you got to do." And the biggest scoop of my career, and it was beaten by 120 seconds.
For the record, I'm not here as a spokesperson for Variety. I had nothing to do with it, actually. Eric thought I did, but I actually didn't. But Eric's story is not uncommon, especially with the trades. You're dealing with studios all the time. I'll give sort of an anecdote to that. When Hulu was developing this gay version of Golden Girls, which is weird to say gay version because Golden Girls is gay, but like the really gay one with Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, Linda Lavin, and I'm forgetting the rest of the names. So I got a tip. A source called me and said, they're doing this gay Golden Girls, blah, blah, blah. So I start calling sources, and I have it confirmed. And I call Hulu. They didn't get back to me fast enough. And then when they were getting back to me as I'm about to publish it, they said, "Oh, someone else at Variety has it." I said, "I don't know anything about that." And I didn't. I really didn't. We do, not everyone's sharing everything with each other. And they said, "Well, we told them that we're going to give them a release on Thursday that's going to go wide." I said, "I'm not waiting for a wide release. Why would I wait for it wide?" Thank you, by the way, for just confirming it. And I went with it, and people were pissed, and Hulu's pissed, and I realized that I think it was Deadline who had it, because Deadline published like 2 minutes after, I'm under the school of, you don't wait. If we got the story, we got the story. But at the same time, I understand there are circumstances, there are relationships, there are stories that I've held that, I agreed, as long as I'm getting the exclusive when it's ready to go, I'm not holding my story for you to go wide. That's for sure. But yeah, it's always these relationships that are, back and forth. I'll give you a silly story. So the other night, The Perfect Couple premiered here in LA. And about an hour into the carpet, all of a sudden, there were swarms of gnats everywhere. It was like Attack of the Gnats. Like, I was interviewing Liev Schreiber, and I'm feeling them on my neck. But I thought it was sweat. I was like, why am I sweating? So I'm not nervous interviewing Liev Schreiber. It was hot. It was, part of this heat wave, right? So he walks away, and another reporter goes, "Mark, look on your shirt." And I was wearing like a pink shirt. Gnats everywhere. You looked up at the lights, gnats. You looked at the step and repeat, which was this light blue, gnats. It was so disgusting. They were flying in my mouth. Nicole Kidman's talking to me. She has a gnat on her head. Do you tell? Another reporter did pick a gnat out of Nicole Kidman's hair. I did not, right? So I'm sending video to our social team going, there are gnats everywhere. So I sent a video of the gnats on the step and repeat. And my social media editor was like, "Is Netflix going to kill us if we post this?" I said, "They don't control nature." And I said, post it. So I run home and I do a story. Perfect couple, red carpet premiere swarmed by gnats. It's so stupid, right? But I do this whole thing, and Liev Schreiber's smacking his neck. He's getting bitten by gnats. Gnats are everywhere, and I was interviewing Megan Fahey, and she couldn't even talk to me. She's like, I can't talk to you. There are gnats everywhere. And she brushed on the, so we run the video of the gnats. Oh, it's probably like close to midnight. I'm falling asleep. I get an email from a Netflix rep going, Mark, you know the cast loved talking to you, but a little disappointed that the focus was on insects. Are you going to do more coverage? I wrote back, I said, yes, we're going to do more coverage. Could not ignore the gnats, I'm sorry. And for a second, I'm like, oh, fuck, now I'm going to have this, pain in the ass with Netflix. And then reminding myself, this too shall pass. It always passes. The next day, Netflix leans into it. Every reporter on the carpet got a hand-delivered bottle of Off. Which is genius on their part, because then I ended up socialing that, and it just furthered the whole thing. The point being, it's like, with these publicists, you don't know what's gonna piss someone off. Usually it's something you're not even thinking of. It's a thing you think's gonna piss them off, that never does, and then it's just this random thing, and you're like, seriously, we're not curing cancer.
100%. I mean, literally, I remember, I think this was last year, Demi Lovato was putting out a revamped version of her old songs, and I had a scheduled interview with her. And the day before we did the interview, news had broken that Demi was no longer working with Scooter Braun, that Justin Bieber was no longer working with Scooter Braun, that Ariana Grande was no longer working with Scooter Braun. And I'm sitting here going, yes, I have an interview with them tomorrow. And immediately I get an email from the press rep being like, hi, please do not ask about this in the interview. And I was like, that's not gonna work for me, as a matter of fact. And I think the thing that I literally explained to them was just if your client isn't interested in answering a question about this, that is entirely up to them. That's not going to stop me from asking the question. And they kept pushing back and kept being like, they really don't want to talk about it. They really don't want to have this conversation. And I was like, that's fine. They can say that to me when we are doing the interview. We get to the interview, and Demi is very much like, yeah, I can talk about it. There isn't really a fun story here, but it didn't work out. There is no hard feelings. We're good. I asked one follow-up question, and immediately the PR rep was just like, ooh, what's the next question? And I was like, all right, well, we tried. But it's very much like that, where it's always the thing where it's you want to have control over literally every aspect of what's happening here, and they know that they can't, but they're gonna try. And so it's always fun to start having that little sparring match with them of just no, we're not gonna do that, but thank you.
And just a short note, I've done so many phone interviews, Zoom interviews, but there's phone interviews that I kind of like it, but I don't, because you just never know what's going to happen. The ones where the publicist they're always listening in the background. And I can't tell you how many times one of the tips I have for interviewing, if you have a really controversial question about anything that they're going to be hesitant to answer, that's the very last or second to last question. I can't tell you how many times I've started to ask a question and a publicist has jumped in and said, oh, Eric, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about that. And part of the time, I think the celebrities probably didn't even know that the publicist wanted to do that.
Or my favorite is when they hit you with we only have 5 minutes left. I'm like, we just started the interview.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had so many interviews that just wound up, it's supposed to be 15 minutes, it winds up being 30. Because they want to talk a lot of times. I'll give you another tip, not that you asked for it, but I tend to have a low voice. When I'm talking on the phone, especially if I'm in the newsroom, I lower it a little bit more because I don't want everyone to hear me around the newsroom. I have been complimented so many times by men and women, gay and straight, on the phone saying, oh, you have a really nice voice. I remember, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to say who, but one of the creators of Will and Grace, I was talking to him, and when I started talking, he said, Eric, is everyone at the Post sultry or just you? I was like, thank you. Oh, what the hell? Thank you, Max. I mean, it was just, but it also disarms them, by the way. If you can find a way to kind of like, to get them off guard a little bit, and it eases into the conversation. I don't remember my point of that, but there you go.
Just one publicist thing. I had a publicist, a quote-unquote high-powered publicist, call my editor and try to get me to lose my job for a story that had not published yet. So, you can have some great back and forth with people, and then you can have some people try to take your job. Her name is Mara Bucksbaum. She was the publicist for Casey Affleck. Okay. We published this story, though, and this was during the what movie was he in? When he had the Oscar, Manchester by the Sea. This was also the same year as the Nate Parker situation, and so my piece was looking at both circumstances. And I was working at the LA Times at the time, which, they what they are. And so she just thought that could impact whatever, and tried to get me to lose my job. Too bad for her.
It's going to change directions a little bit now. So in terms of representation, how has interviewing celebrities about their sexual identity changed over the red carpet or in Hollywood?
I mean, I got some time on most people on this panel, so I'll go to the way back, eons ago. Again, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit from what was said earlier in the other panel, but it's changed. I mean, it's night and day doesn't even really sort of describe it. I came up in celebrity journalism at a time where you could talk to straight people about their sexuality, which is meaning talk to them about their private lives, but gay celebrity, you just didn't. It wasn't even thought about to go there. And my example I like to use is I worked at Premiere Magazine. It's 1996-ish, maybe, and The Birdcage is coming out. The Birdcage is an American remake of La Cage aux Folles, which is a very gay movie. And as I said in the last thing, if you don't know what The Birdcage is, you might not belong at this conference, but whatever. And I was interviewing, we were getting like the first look at it. It was like the first still from it. And I was going to interview Nathan Lane. It was going to be a phoner. And I got a phone call saying, do not ask Nathan Lane about his private life. About him playing this drag queen musical. Like, it's so absurd when I think about it today. But, you just didn't ask. Like, if I was interviewing Jodie Foster, you wouldn't ask, like, and then it got weird because then she has a kid. So you talk to her about her kid, but, like, who's the other parent, So it's changed to the point where, I've had celebrities, publicists, or the celebrities themselves call me and say, I want to do my coming out story with you. I want people to know. And I will say this probably forever through the end of my career, that every celebrity that does come out, that does live their truth, is potentially and probably saving lives. There's no doubt in my mind. And I just think in this day and age, because of social media and because of the news cycle, it's really hard to be closeted. Like, really hard. I mean, they're still there, but it's really, really tough. So it's completely changed, because now it's like, I'm on a carpet and I'm calling gay guys. I'm like, hey, girl. Like, you wouldn't have done that back in the day,
Well, and it's interesting because, like, even the conversations that, like, I've gotten to have with queer celebrities, especially in the last couple of years, have fundamentally changed, because before there was such tokenism around people who were queer and who were openly queer. Like, I remember I've spoken to Adam Lambert probably 1 billion times at this point, and he and I have talked a lot about how very early in his career, it was always, oh, you're the gay one on this carpet, you're the gay one, and it was always getting, questions about, like, what does it mean to you to be out and gay? And it's just kind of like, that gets so old so fast. And now, with so many more celebrities who are being very open and very, like, proud about who they are in public, suddenly their sexuality it's because it's no longer like novel, it's like the 7th most interesting thing about them. So it's like, it might not even come up in conversation because it's like, yeah, we have so much other stuff to talk about. And then when it does come up in conversation, you're having so much more interesting conversations with them about queerness in the industry and like what representation looks like and like why it matters and all of this other stuff, instead of just like, what does pride mean to you? Where it's like, what does that even mean? That's just going to invite an answer of pure buzzwords from whoever you're asking it to. And so I think because we have so many more, not only are we saving people's lives, but it's opening the door to have so many more interesting and important conversations about what that actually means for the industry and just for people at large.
So I think it's about time to take some questions.
Could I also just throw one thing? I'm sorry, because you
Absolutely.
mentioned buzzwords and cliches. I want your help with something, Mark. Since you're on the red carpet all the time, there's one phrase that I really can't stand that actors continue to throw out time and time again when they're going on and on about their what they're working on. They say, "Oh, this role was such a gift." Everyone throws that out there, and it's such a ridiculous. I just find it to be a really ridiculous word because, no, this role isn't a gift; it's a job. Your multi-million-dollar salary is a gift. I don't. How do you get past dealing with buzzwords and cliches and all that kind of crap? Because there's so much stuff that's thrown out there that it just makes you want to fall asleep and walk.
I mean, listen, you know, it all depends on the celebrity. It depends on my relationship with them, to be honest with you. There are some celebs that I can just go in. I don't have to say, what does this role mean to you? What did it feel like getting the phone call, so on and so forth. There are some people I don't have that informality with, so I will start it off with that. But what I'm always looking for is to avoid that. You know, it doesn't mean anything. Like you say, it doesn't mean anything. So, you know, my second question, hopefully my third question, is going to be something that's just taking a right turn or a left turn from what everybody else on the carpet is asking. Excuse me. So, you know, there are celebrities who are professional, stay on point. You're not going to get them to divert. But hopefully what I'm doing is when I'm looking at whatever project it is, and listen, I'm there, it's a premiere for their project. I may have other stuff to ask them about, but I'm gonna look for something in that project, that tiny detail, and I just know it when I see it. And that's where I usually get them, and I don't mean get them like, oh, I gotcha, but like get them to say something different, because it's that one detail on a project that no one else has clued in on, whether it's like a song or, you know, there was something in the background. That's what I try to, and that also shows a level of respect that you're paying attention, you know, rather than just saying like, what was it like playing this role, you know, so on and so forth. So again, it's such a case-by-case basis. You know, I gave this again, I'm giving all these same fucking stories. I'm like an old man now. But I gave this story earlier where, especially on the red carpet, you don't have 30 minutes. You don't have 15 minutes. You don't have 5 minutes. You don't have 3 minutes. You don't have 2 minutes. You have like a minute. I mean, you know, if I get 3 minutes with a celebrity, I'm like, oh, I got to transcribe all of that. So I give this example of Henry Cavill. So Henry Cavill is shooting Superman, and all these paparazzi photos came out of him in the rain. I know all the queer guys are going to remember it, and he had a really beautiful hairy chest. So I was going to a premiere where he played like Zeus or something. It was like one of those movies where it takes place in like wherever Zeus lives. And he was fully waxed. No offense if you wax. And literally, the premiere was downtown. Of course, he's running late. The biggest stars are always going to come the last 5 seconds, blah, blah. Publicist comes up to me and says, Mark, you have one question. I said, okay. And he came up and I go, Henry, do you prefer your chest hairy or waxed? Keep in mind, I didn't work at Variety at the time, I worked at E-News, so that's a very E-News question. And they literally looked at me, I'm like, you said one question. I'm not gonna waste it on how are you? And he preferred it hairy because it was painful to be waxed. And I got my headline and the story got picked up everywhere. So that's how I try to get different things.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I was just curious because, I totally understand it's a business and they're human. Is there anything that's ever off limits? Like you just wouldn't go there? I mean, we talk a lot about now, like there's mental health and there's so many things going on where maybe you don't want to ask that question and go down that road with someone because at the end of the day, yes, they're making millions of dollars. I wish I was. But just want to let everybody know. I would love to make money. But just there might be something where you do know so much about them, and like you said, where they're from and their birthdays. Like, that's just not going to happen.
I mean, for me, I'm someone in recovery, so I'm not going to ask someone about their recovery if they're sober. There are people that I know through the recovery community who are in Hollywood. I would never. I mean, it's called whatever program it is, anonymous. But also, I'll know that someone is in recovery and, we don't have any connection, but I would never try to push someone to talk about their recovery. We could get into the whole health issue, it is a disease. I would never, if I knew someone had cancer, I would never ask them, like, could you confirm you have cancer? And I used to have to do that kind of shit. When I was in the tabloid press or I was at the Daily News, I remember having to call Gene Wilder's rep because paparazzi got him coming out of like Sloan Kettering or something. And I had to call the rep and be like, does he have cancer? Like, that's the stuff like. Now, then it gets tricky because I'm at Variety, like let's say someone's health is getting in the way of a movie production. The movie production shuts down and I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But, you have the Daily, if there's people on the Daily Mail here, I'm sorry, but you have the Daily Mail, they'll do that. I'm not going to, for sure, talk about someone's recovery. If they want to talk about their recovery, which I've done plenty of times with celebrities, and it's sort of like the sexuality issue, like you never talked about recovery, you never talked about alcoholism, drug addiction, substance abuse. Now people are much more open about it, which I think is, at Variety we've done 2, I think, recovery issues that are, themed to recovery. But if they don't want to talk about it, I'm not going. There's no way.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way, especially when it comes to, because so much of what I talk about in my work is sexual identity and gender identity, I am not going to ask anybody to identify themselves unless they have already publicly identified themselves as queer, as trans, as non-binary, as whatever. If you have not already talked about it publicly, I am not going to be the person to ask you that question unless we have had a conversation beforehand where you have said, I want to talk about this in the interview. Because at the end of the day, it is nobody's business until you decide that you want it to be somebody's business. So that's my thing.
And I think along those lines, I'm never going to ask somebody like, you lost a lot of weight, Ozempic? I'm never going to do that, right? It's the same sort of thing. Like if I open up like, you look great, you look healthy, how are you feeling? I'm feeling great, I had this role and I did this and this is what, that's different. You're deciding to tell me, but I'm never just going to be like, amazing, Ozempic. I'm never going to do that.
Oh, thank you. Hi, David Artavia, Yahoo News. Work at I'm an entertainment and culture reporter. Know several of you. Hi, good to see you all. I have 2 questions. I was in my mind which one I'm going to ask, so I hope it's okay if I ask both of them and you all answer whatever you want to answer. They're kind of about ethics. So before I came to Yahoo News, I was a magazine editor, and in the magazine world, it's sort of incumbent upon you to sort of be in the culture of which you're writing, So it was normal to be friends with celebrities, be friends with publicists, go to the dinner parties at their house. So my first question is sort of, how do you, navigate or balance your personal relationships with celebrities when you're trying to cover them? Because when I got to this new position, I was actually told by my manager try to have a distance between you and celebrities, which was a little bit hard for me because I want to be friends with these people, but also try to maintain a healthy boundary. That's first question. Another question, you sort of just touched on it a little bit about outing and where we've come with outing. I feel like when the Olympics happened, there was that story going around of, people being outed on Grindr. And so at what point do you feel like you're in a good enough position to write about a rumor that's happening, even though you aren't necessarily outing, but people on Twitter or something are talking about it? Like, do you then take it upon yourself to write a story like that? Where's that line to? So that's the other question.
I mean, yeah, I can answer that one very quickly. And it's very much, if it is not coming from that person's mouth, I'm not writing that story. Like, if I have not heard that person say, I identify as such, I'm not writing that. Because, again, it's just like, anybody can have rumors about anything. There is truly no way to know where those rumors are coming from. We don't know if this is malicious shit that people online are just saying in order to try and affect somebody's reputation. You have to consider sourcing. And so, yeah, if I'm not hearing someone say I identify as queer, that's not a story that's going up, period.
In terms of being friends with celebrities and that relationship and publicists, what I've always reminded myself is, as soon as I'm not working for Variety, I'm off their databases. I'm not getting invited to the parties. I'm not getting invited to the premieres. I get it. Am I friendly with publicists? For sure. I have close friends who are publicists. Am I friendly with celebrities? For sure. Am I friends with celebrities? Maybe 3. And when I say friends, it's not someone I'm going to dinner with, because it is awkward. It's, I've been in those situations where I do walk into a party and they're not expecting press to be there. They know me, and I have to say to them, everything's off the record, nothing's happening here. But then the problem is, what happens if someone says something and I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do with that? So why put myself in that awkward position? That said, if you're friendly enough with a celeb and a story comes through, there are some that I am friendly enough to text or to email saying, hey, this, that, or the other thing. But yeah, I agree with your editor. There's a distance you have to have. It's just like, Washington journalists, you can't be best friends with Joe Biden, I mean, I guess maybe there are some, but I don't know. It creates it's really uncomfortable, because then also what happens is there are celebrities that people think I'm friendly with. So in the newsroom, they'll say, hey, Mark, could you reach out to blah, blah, blah? You're friendly with them. And I say, I'm not. And they're like, but you were at this, and it's, anyway. So yeah, it's a business relationship. I'm not saying the people who I'm friends with are just going to drop me as a friend if I'm not in the business anymore, but 99% of the people I'm friendly with in the business, I don't have anything I could give them, so why are they going to invite me to the party? You know what I mean?
One more question? All right, hold on. Okay. I'll be fast because I don't have a question, but I have a personal note. Hollywood, we have been speaking about entertainment as it's just fun and escapism, and we're just doing it for enjoyment. But the power of Hollywood in the rest of the world is much more than you can imagine. Hollywood is shaping the narrative and the scheme of beliefs people have, and pushing them to accept having gay people, and it's normal and it's okay. While governments in the Middle East, for instance, and I'm an Egyptian-American journalist, they can ban movies. They can filter what kind of messages they see. They cannot ban you. They cannot stop your clips with celebrities going on TikTok and social media, which are highly consumed there. And because of you, the veil of, this is just an act, they're just acting, this stardom illusion, you bring them to life, you bring them down to being people. And because of your work, you're not only saving lives, you're actually educating the cisgender, heterosexual population there that it's okay to have a gay neighbor. Being homosexual, it's not contagious. They are not going to rape your kids and stuff like that, which unfortunately is highly believed in the Middle East. And the other thing is you're educating the closeted LGBTQ people in the rest of the world, and I'm speaking again, I'm American Egyptian journalist, you're educating them that not only you're not alone, but you're educating them that it's your right to exist. It's your right to be gay. It's your right to express yourself the way you want. And again, being American Egyptian journalist, I would like to thank you extremely for educating the people about that in this region. And your power there is beyond what you think. It's not just fun or entertainment. You really are saving lives by your work. And thank you.
Any notes on that, panel? No? So have you a question? One more question.
Oh, thank you much. Here, let me stand. With the outing conversation, I'm 22, so I know a lot of folks my age who are considering representation through the vein of, in my opinion, a misunderstood view of queer baiting. Big quotation marks on that. The idea that a celebrity who is not public about their sexuality should not be playing queer roles, and that in general, even beyond sexuality, that actors' identities need to align exactly with the characters that they're playing is, certainly nuanced, and in the case of queerness, I think among young people has come down firmly that if you're not public, then this is not your job anymore. The Kit Connor outing comes to mind as a really vivid example of this. He said, "Congrats on forcing me out of the closet at 18 from social media pressure." I just want to know about the intra-industry conversation around these things, because I get to see all of the social media story. I'm a student, so I'm just coming into sort of industry conversations here at this convention. I want to understand how those shifting dynamics are impacting your jobs.
Well, I'll say, I was at the LA Times when Empire came out, and Jussie Smollett was on Empire. If you were familiar with Jussie Smollett before Empire, you knew he was a homosexual. But for those of you who were introduced to him on that show, I don't want to say he went back in the closet, but it was because he had not, at that stage of his career, articulated his queerness. We at the LA Times, based on our style guide, could not say he was gay, even though me and another black gay person on staff knew he was gay. You know what I mean? But because he had not said it at that particular stage, on that particular level, the company would not allow us to cover him in that way. He eventually did an interview with Garrett Kennedy in which he said so, and then everyone started covering him as such. But that's just one example. When I was at Out Magazine, Shuti Gatwa, who is in sex education and whatever that other show is, Doctor Who. Oh, that one, yes, Doctor Who. My gaydar was going off, personally speaking. Because but, when we would try to court him for a couple years, right, his team wasn't having shit to do with us, right, because that would be confirmation, and, he wanted to come out in British Vogue, right, okay, and that's fine. And so I think that when you are with a particular news entity, there are parameters around how you can label people for various different reasons. If you are on the freelance side of things, if you're just, doing your own publication, your own podcast, your own commentary on social media, I think it allows you to have a different type of conversation, to bring in different resources, different information to how you articulate your position. So it really depends on, who's signing your check at the end of the day of how you can cover certain things is what I would say.
I think we have one more question. Time for one more question. Matt.
Mark, why did Ben and J-Lo break up? No.
And that's all the time we have. Thanks for coming.
Wait, no spill.
No,
Ben Affleck is gay.
Oh, God. No, this question is actually for Stephen or Stefan. I'm sorry, Stephen. Stephen, you mentioned that I'm right here. You don't. You mentioned that you don't believe in cancel culture, and I was interested in hearing you expand upon that thought. It perked my interest.
I mean, yeah, for me, it just mostly comes down to the number of times that people will complain about like being canceled, and they're doing it from the stage at a sold-out comedy show that is then on Netflix and then constantly promoted and sent everywhere, and they make millions of dollars off of it. I'm like, sure does not seem to me like you were canceled. And like, I truly cannot count on one hand the number of people who have been like permanently canceled. It's like people get mad at them for a while, they go away for a little bit, and then they just slowly start creeping back into culture. And so it's like, yeah, there's a difference between cancel culture and like holding people accountable and like having consequences for like the things that you say. Like, I think that those are two very different things. And I think that cancel culture as a phrase gets weaponized to stop having critical conversations about people saying completely out of pocket shit in public. And yeah, I just don't think that cancel culture is real, and I'm really tired of having to have that same conversation over and over again of why do we keep canceling celebrities? We don't. Like, they're not getting canceled. They're still right there doing the same thing. So that's the short version of it, I guess.
Speaking of cancel culture, I'm very curious, Mark, would you ever want to interview someone like Kevin Spacey, who definitely, for various reasons, faced cancel culture? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's
there.
okay. No. That's what we're here for. I wouldn't want to do like a fun 30-second interview on a red carpet with him. You know, if you're going to interview a Kevin Spacey, I think obviously it's not a one-sided interview. It's, okay, we're going to talk to his accusers. We're going to go down that road. Let him say what he's going to say. And then it's like really, depending on what he says and what the reporting comes out, is if we're going to run it. For someone like him, you wouldn't know if you're going to run it until it happens. You know, we have seen interviews with people who have been so-called canceled, and it's, you know, a one-sided interview, and people will say, oh, are you going to pick it up? It's like, we're not going to do a pickup of a story because they were just given, you know, they're just defending themselves against whatever they defended themselves against in the past without going to the people who've, because usually it's someone accusing someone of something. So I don't know if that answered it, but yeah. So.
I'd like to thank Jen Christensen for putting this plenary together. Thank you, Jen. And let's hear a big shout out for all of our plenary panelists. Thank you all for coming. Hope you have a great rest of your convention.
Woo!